Hello, hello, dear beloveds. Hello, hello, dear beloveds. It is my absolute privilege and joy to be here with you. After a little while, I haven't been as active with lives, and I guess there's been a lot of reasons for that. So I thought today I would come live with a mini masterclass, which I'm very excited about, but I'd also like to give you a little bit of a background of what's been going on. For me, of course, I am based in Melbourne, in Australia, and we are still currently under the toughest restrictions in the world for in a response to the pandemic, to COVID. And whilst we are starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel, it's been a really long time. So the energy, I guess, to kind of show up and go live has been more challenging. And I really want to talk about that. In fact, it's the subject of my mini masterclass today, but I thought I'd give you a little bit of a context for where I've been, what's been happening in the background, of course, as well as working with these restrictions. I have been running 4 different programs at once, so it certainly hasn't been rest and relaxation time for me at all. And I've been supporting an incredible group of women training priestesses to do some amazing work, and many of them are also in Melbourne with me, and I know that they are also working with the challenges of being in these restrictions. But it's really amazing for, I guess, when we're looking at it with spiritual sight, to see what's possible. So let me just kind of wind back a little bit, and I'll give you a little bit of a context for what I want to talk about today, and the context of life here in Melbourne right now. And I just want to say right up front, I don't have any opinions about COVID. You've heard me, if you follow me around the internet, speak about the spiritual meaning of this pandemic for me and what I believe is available for all of us. But really, the context of what I want to speak about is just my own personal experience. And it's been really, the challenges of being in a pandemic for all of us are so different to what we would expect. Today, I got my first little mask pimple, which has just sent me into absolute palpitations. So I did hear about this. My beauty therapist did say to me, when the masks were brought in as mandatory, that there is this thing where your face reacts to obviously having, a mask on it a lot of the time, and the sweat and all the rest of it. Anyway, so I'm, one of the great humbling experiences of this pandemic, along with all the others, is I'm going live today with my mask pimple. But, so be it. I'm here in imperfect action, totally ready. And of course, today is also a very special day for me. We are very close to the spring equinox tomorrow here in Melbourne, the autumnal equinox for those of you in the northern hemisphere. So it's a really beautiful time for us to be marking the change of the seasons, and whatever that means for you. And for me, it's very much about clearing house, and that is alluding to what we're going to talk about today as well. But today is more specifically the beginning of the launch phase for the next intake of the 3rd level program. So we are, as of today, we've opened up the booking link. The interview link is on the website, and I'll share that link with you after I finish my live, to allow any woman who is feeling the call to come into a year-long program, to train as the priestess mystic leader, to qualify as a clinically trained intuitive guide, to take their intuitive intelligence to the level of laser-like precision, and to increase their power to serve, then today is the day where you can book your interview, which is very exciting. It's a very, very significant moment. It happens twice a year where I get to say, today is it, it's launch day, and today is that day. And I love that it lines up with the equinox. So we're seeing this new energy coming in, and I'm certainly feeling that very much, and feeling a sense of, yes, the kind of fatigue of being under restrictions for such a long time, but I can also feel the hopefulness as our numbers come right down, and the joy of this new season. If you've ever been to Melbourne, you'll know that we do spring very beautifully. We have so many. I'm from Perth originally, so we don't have this kind of climate that allows for all the blossoms, the cherry blossoms, the magnolias, The trees everywhere are just full of the most luscious kind of hyper-colored flowers. We've got pinks and whites, and it just moves me so deeply. And so I'm feeling that energy inside of me. And as I walk along the creek near my house, seeing all of these wildflowers cropping up beside the creek, and it just feels like a good time. Conversely, I love autumn also in that sense of beginning to withdraw and go within, but really honoring these changes is such a beautiful thing. So I want to begin, I say 5 minutes in. I want to begin the mini masterclass now. We've had a little time to kind of connect and chat and talk about this idea of how to increase our power to serve. Now, we can often think when we come into our spiritual seeking and we feel that yearning to train as practitioners of something, it doesn't matter whether it's Reiki, kinesiology, or any other of the many, many modalities that are out there, that somehow it's the modality that has the power, and that is going to give us what we need in order to be the cause of great positive change, the cause of miracles in our client's life. But the truth of it is that it's really irrelevant what modality you decide to train in. And I really mean that quite sincerely. I mean that of what I train you in as part of the third level, and I mean that of everything else, because the power of your service is not in what you do. It is in the energy that informs why you're doing it and how you show up to that energy. So if we think the power is in the modality, that is what I call a trinket or superstition. In the same way, if you say that the power is in a crystal, or it's in a particular place on earth, or in a kind of water that you drink, you are externalizing the source of power, and that is buying into this mindset of separation and dualism and this idea of trinkets and superstitions of the New Age. When we begin to understand that what increases our power to serve and to create the most kind of powerful change for those that we serve and have the privilege of serving is the energy that informs how we show up. So what you do with your client, there is no more potent or powerful a tool or a modality on this planet. It is what is informing what you do. And you are informing what you do. So really, I've made this joke for a long time that I could sit down with my priestesses and make macrame. And as long as the energy that was informing that activity was as potent as what I bring to the training that we do with them, we would see remarkable results. And the reason for that is not the act itself, because the act itself is just moving furniture in a burning building. Do whatever lights you up. If it's macrame, do that. If it's yogurt making, do that. Don't buy into the idea that there is a modality on this planet that has more power in it. The power is in the person who is doing the process, and their power is determined not because they've got some special magic gift or they had the best teacher, although that does help, having high quality teachers. It is about the congruence of their energy. And what do I mean by that? Now, if you are a third level priestess, you will probably be bored to death or really excited about this word congruence. Congruence to me is where you are lining up with what it is that you are representing. So when we say that we are a spiritual practitioner of any kind of modality, as I said, it's irrelevant what it is, we are advocating for a way of working with our client that is not through the dominant five senses. Largely, it's based on the idea of energy first, physical second. And we know that what allows our energy to be potent and powerful is that when our words and our actions match, or when our faith and our actions are a match, that is what I call congruence. So this idea that you could show up as a Reiki practitioner, as a kinesiologist, as a, it doesn't really matter, it's relevant, in any way, and not be congruent and still have a positive benefit for your client is really, really not true. In fact, it's the opposite of true. And I think a lot of people think they can get away with that. Congruence is where you are no longer lying to yourself. So congruence is about your conscience as much as it is about your consciousness. And if you are not in right relationship with your conscience, if you're trying to lie to yourself, if you're trying to avoid looking at your own shadow, if you're living a lie, if you're not, if you're not taking responsibility, for your own life, and showing up in a way that you want to then offer to others, you will be breaking the law. And that law is of the law of mentalism, all is one. So I cannot give to you what I am not giving to myself or being myself, because energy doesn't lie. This is also the law of vibration. It's all the laws. The laws are here at play, the immutable laws. We'll do another live on those another day. So our task to increase our power to serve as practitioners in any way is not to look, oh, what's the best training I can get? Or, although I keep saying that training does matter, what is it that is informing my work? What's the reason that I'm showing up? And if we're informed by a desire that is not incongruent with our divine nature, then we are at odds with what it is that we're advocating. So we can only take our client as far as we have taken ourselves. We must be the embodiment of what we're offering. Now, this does not mean you have to be perfect or healed, whatever that means, or have solved all your life issues, but your willingness to have the humility to keep showing up, even when it's difficult. And this is where I want to speak a little bit about my own experience of living during a pandemic in the city in the world that has the toughest restrictions, even though we don't have nowhere near the level of case numbers that other parts of the world have. And we can look at that as both a blessing and a challenge, which it is. We will probably in very short order will be back to a state of being where we don't have this pandemic running rampant through our city, and we will be able to have the reclamation of our freedom. But it has gone on for a very long time. And one of the great opportunities of this time for me has been, okay, Ricky, how congruent are you? How congruent are you actually? And to see that as a divine, really hardcore teacher, to see these restrictions and the change in life as this very, very unrelenting, very fierce teacher has been one of the ways that I've been working with this energy and navigating it. I will put my hand up and say that these past, however long it's been, 6 months, have been deeply challenging and really, really allowed me to see where I am incongruent in my own life, the crutches and the things that I lean on when I'm feeling overwhelmed or stressed. In the same time that we've had these restrictions, the work of the Institute and the work that I've personally been required to do has sort of exponentially increased, which is a huge blessing. And I'm so grateful for that. But these two very contrasting states of being, one under this kind of constant stress, homeschooling children, lots and lots of people in my community suffering, lots of them are thriving as well, but seeing lots and lots of ways in which the pleasures and the joys and the simplicities of a well-lived life have been removed from us. And how do we manage ourselves at a time, for whatever reason, this has been my experience, where the demands on us seem so great that it seems like we've got an out from being congruent, where we're allowed to say, this is too hard, I'm out, I'm not going to show up in the fullness of who I am. And part of being congruent might sound paradoxical, but part of being congruent is being willing to say, I cannot show up in the fullness of who I am, rather than trying to hide that. So congruence is not about you always having to shine and always having to be on. As I said at the beginning, you haven't seen me in a little while going live here because it's been absolutely vital to my health in all ways, spiritual, mental, emotional, physical, that I withdraw and hold myself in what I've needed in my own deep initiation during this time, and really to allow myself to be where I'm at and to serve in the ways that I needed to serve. And it's been a really beautiful opportunity to honor that, and that is congruence. So it's not about pushing through and forcing yourself to participate in the world in a way that is not real. Congruence can also be thought of authenticity. But it's not authenticity with your littleness, it's authenticity with your God nature. So getting congruent is about getting closer and closer to the truth of your nature, which is divine and holy and unlimited. And what has been one of the biggest opportunities out of this pandemic phase for me is to recognize that I had an upper limit. Now, the upper limit has nothing to do with the pandemic. The upper limit was there already. And if you're not familiar with that term, that comes from Gay Hendricks and his beautiful book, The Big Leap. This idea that I was banging my head up against a level of, okay, this is my upper limit for good feeling around a particular area. And in my life in the last few months, it's been around my capacity to feel like I could take my work further, that I could prioritize writing another 2 books at the same time that I was already delivering a huge amount of trainings, and seeing that I was being called to do that, but also feeling really overwhelmed with the task. That overwhelm, it turns out, was part of the upper limit. And that then I was engaging in habits and behaviors that made it a self-fulfilling prophecy. I can't go where I'm being called to go by God. It's already too much. I can't do this, blah, blah, blah. And I'm going to prove that by then engaging in behaviors that keep me in a kind of holding pattern that allow me to not have to show up in the full expression of who I am. Now, congruence is not all at once, my darlings. It's every damn day. We make the choice every damn day. Am I willing to be humble enough to recognize that this journey of awakening never ends? It's never done. And that is part of the really great joy, is that this work is the work of our lives. It can also feel like if you're trying to win a race, that you're never going to get to the end. So stop trying to win a race. There are cycles and seasons. As I said at the beginning, we're at this point where the seasons are changing again. And as we move into spring here in the Southern Hemisphere, I can feel myself beginning to blossom forth, my readiness to show up and to say to all the incoming priestesses who are ready for the next intake, I'm here now because I went into the winter of my being during the winter of my hemisphere and allowed myself to go deep into the things that needed to surface. And when we are allowing ourselves to be in cycles, and sometimes it matches the seasons and sometimes it doesn't really matter, but to honor that we are cyclical beings and that is our nature, we can endure or even thrive during phases such as a global pandemic. We can see what is the phase, what is the season that human consciousness is being called into right now. And it isn't the extroverted, go everywhere, shine brightly energy necessarily. It might be that winter of our being where we need to go inwards and look at what is there that has been ignored because we've been so busy, swanning around, feeling glorious, feeling the sunshine, and allowing ourselves some time to sit with the discomfort. And that's what I've been doing during this phase of recognizing that I'm being called to take my work to yet another level, and resisting that call and calling it all kinds of things and blaming the pandemic and sitting in my victim and all the rest of it, mostly my saboteur. I heard Brad Yates, the great tapping teacher, say this morning, I've been working with one of his scripts, and he said, self-sabotage is misguided self-love, where your ego is trying to keep you safe through behaviors that keep you little. And I was like, oh God, I get it now. I completely see that. And it's been, I'd love to say that the last 6 months of this exploration has been like, just a trajectory like that, but it hasn't. It's been like that. And we can jokingly call that the Corona coaster. And yes, it is, but it's also the nature of being human. And if we are hoping that always we're going to be up or always, making progress in a way that makes sense in our idea of linear time, like moving forward, then we're going to lose the truth of our evolution, which is that it's a vortex, right? We awaken like this. So we'll keep revisiting. We are moving upwards. We are, if we're willing, showing up to this discomfort and all the rest of it. But we're going to revisit the same things again and again. And I can, I feel like I've gone through 3 seasons of winter in the last season of winter of the last 6 months. And I can really see, because I map my own journey and I journal and I pay attention, and through my devotion I can witness myself very clearly. I can see the evolution, even though it might seem subtle. And now I'm at this point where I feel this sense of great breakthrough. And I know that that is temporary. This too shall pass. And that is perfect also. When I'm trying to clutch onto a particular feeling state, like I feel like that is better than, or that is what I need to be feeling if I'm being a good spiritual person, that isn't congruence. Congruence is showing up authentically to what is and allowing that to be our medicine, and to take the actions and correct the errors where we are in hiding from ourselves. And as all of my beautiful third level priestesses know, the more we do this work, the sneakier our saboteur gets. And so it looks to us from, a very reasonable place that we're doing everything right. But the refinement of our awakening is how we increase our power to serve. The refinement of getting congruent. It will no longer be those very obvious behaviors. It will become more and more subtle, how you are actually affecting your own limits by engaging in behaviors that make your ego feel safe. Your ego being that part of you that has forgotten it is God. That's the definition of the ego as we use it. And instead, to be able to witness ourselves through that humble view of staying present to the fact that everything is a season and everything will change. And sometimes that season's a day and sometimes it's a year. And that is all absolutely perfect. So when we look to increase our power to serve, please remember that we are not ever going to find the modality that is the thing, or the tool that's the thing, or the crystal that's the thing, or the person that is the thing. It is our capacity, and I mean this both for you as a practitioner and for your client, that we are willing to get congruent, to stop lying to ourselves, to sit with the discomfort, to get over our sabotage behaviors, to look to where it's convenient to stay in our littleness, even while we're claiming that we want our bigness, our gloriousness, and to let that work take our lifetimes. It's the work. It's the work. There's no end point, and it's the purpose of our life. And when we get into that arrangement or relationship with it, it becomes deep pleasure, not something to be afraid of. And it's a true blessing to get to share the year of the third level with the women who walk that path, because that is what the year is all about, ultimately, is getting congruent. So regardless of what you do or how you do it, if you want to increase your power to serve, you need to have a scaffold to support you to become congruent. Because as I said, these things are very, very subtle, especially as we have gone further and further on our journey of spiritual awakening. To get to that level of self-awareness and to be able to maintain that momentum, I believe requires a level of mentorship and teaching and holding and sisterhood and scaffolding that the third level provides, and accelerates your capacity, your power to serve in whatever way. And that's why we don't ask you to put down your modalities. We ask you simply to see through them and beyond them, so that when you come out the other side, everything that you've trained in will become more potent, more powerful, more rich, more likely to be the cause of miracles for those that you serve. So here we are on the spring equinox, almost tomorrow, and the beginning of the third level launch, which I think you'll know if you hang out with me, means you'll see a lot of me in the next few months. And I'm very excited about that, because I love sharing in this way and bringing lots of rich and delicious things to you. Tomorrow we'll be doing another live, sharing with you two very exciting things. We've completely changed the delivery of the third level for 2021. Same incredible content, totally new delivery. And we're also going to be announcing a brand new role, a brand new position inside the third level program called the Teaching and Learning Coordinator. And I'll be sharing the identity of that incredible woman with you. So come and join us if you can. I will also make sure we share that live to Facebook. It is a very big evolution in the program and a very great evidence of this up-leveling that I've been feeling. And now I'm willing and ready to accept the gloriousness of it, and to see us continue to grow as really one of the most, I believe, potent intuition training programs in the world. And, you know, we're doing it differently to anyone else. And I think if you feel that yearning to increase your power to serve, then this is the place. So much love. I will share the link if you would like to share that with anyone to book in an interview. They are now open. It's very exciting. Let it all happen now. So much love to you all. Bye.